Good morning. Every morning the alarm goes off. For most, it's a signal to begin another routine. But for a few, it's more than that. It's a reminder. A reminder that today has meaning. That today is an opportunity. That waking up isn't just about opening your eyes, it's about opening your life. Let me start with a simple question. Why do you wake up? Not what wakes you up, not the alarm clock, the kids, the job. But why? The deeper reason, the internal compass. Because here's the truth, people who have a strong why can endure almost any how. When we lack purpose, we live in reaction mode. We wake up already tired because our minds and hearts are not engaged. We're not driven, we're drifting, we're not climbing, we're circling. Purpose changes all of that. It gives the day shape, it gives struggle meaning, it gives failure direction. And the most powerful thing about purpose is that it's not found, it's built every single day. Purpose doesn't arrive in a flash of lightning, it grows with every choice. It's built when you decide to grow, when you choose courage over comfort, when you give even when it's easier to take. Let me tell you something nobody says loud enough. Purpose doesn't make life easier. It makes it worth it. People often confuse purpose with passion. They think it's about being excited all the time. But purpose is quieter. It's not adrenaline, it's alignment. It's not about doing what you love every day. It's about doing what matters, especially on the days you don't feel like it. A teacher wakes up with purpose when they know their impact lasts beyond the classroom. A parent wakes up with purpose when they realize they're shaping character, not just raising kids. An entrepreneur wakes up with purpose when they're building solutions, not just chasing success. Purpose isn't a slogan. It's a discipline. It means showing up, even when you're exhausted, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The world doesn't need more people who are busy. It needs more people who are intentional. So tomorrow when you wake up, don't just check your phone, check in with your values. Ask yourself, what will I create today? What kind of person will I be today? What legacy will I shape today? That's what it means to wake up with purpose. Because purpose is not just about what you do. It's about who you are becoming while you do it. And that is how you change your life, one intentional morning at a time. 5 keynotes of the speech, purpose is not something you find. It's something you build through daily intentional actions. Without purpose, we operate in reaction mode. With purpose, we live in alignment with our values. Purpose gives meaning to struggle and direction to failure. It doesn't remove hardship, but makes it worthwhile. True purpose is not loud like passion. It's quiet discipline, lived out through consistency and integrity. Waking up with purpose means choosing to shape your day, your character, and your legacy, not just to survive, but to contribute. Purpose is not something you find. It's something you build through daily intentional actions. This idea challenges one of the most common misconceptions people have about living a meaningful life. Many are led to believe that purpose is some hidden treasure waiting to be discovered, something you stumble upon during a life-changing event, a dream job, or a moment of epiphany. But that's rarely how it works. In truth, purpose is not a destination. It is a process. It is not a flash of brilliance, but a quiet, consistent commitment to living deliberately. It's not discovered in a single act, but constructed brick by brick, day after day. When people say, I'm trying to find my purpose, what they often mean is that they are waiting for clarity, waiting for certainty, waiting for something to feel absolutely right. But purpose does not arrive fully formed. It emerges as a result of the actions we take, the choices we make, and the consistency we apply. Think of purpose not as a map that tells you where to go, but as a compass that guides how you move. Every time you choose to do something that aligns with your core values, you're building purpose. Every time you serve someone else, grow in character, commit to a higher standard, or pursue excellence even in small tasks, you're not just acting with purpose, you are becoming a person of purpose. Consider the example of someone working a job they don't love. It's easy to think that purpose can't exist in that environment, but that person still has agency. If they approach their work with integrity, support their coworkers, seek to learn and contribute, then they are laying the foundation for purpose even in the absence of passion. They may not feel on fire with excitement every morning, but through their daily effort, they are shaping the kind of person they want to be. They are building something within themselves that no job title or salary can provide. Purpose grows when we act in alignment with values like responsibility, discipline, compassion, honesty, and growth. It doesn't require a stage or applause. It doesn't depend on your status or the scale of your platform. You can be a janitor and live with more purpose than a CEO. The difference is not in the role, but in the mindset. It is how you show up in the small moments, how you treat others when no one is watching, how you respond to failure, how you navigate uncertainty. Purpose is not a banner you wave, it's a standard you uphold. Intentional actions are at the core of this. Living with purpose means you don't simply react to circumstances. You choose your response. You don't just drift through the day, you direct it. Even simple routines can be infused with purpose when done with clarity and intention. Waking up early to read, setting aside time to listen deeply to someone, choosing health, learning a skill, mentoring a younger person, creating something meaningful. These are not grand gestures, but repeated acts of self-leadership that compound over time. Purpose is often found in those who have the courage to stay consistent when no one else is watching. It's important to remember that purpose is dynamic. It evolves as you evolve. What mattered deeply to you 10 years ago may not carry the same weight now. That's not failure. That's growth. Building purpose means staying in touch with who you are becoming, constantly reevaluating your actions and refining your priorities. It means being willing to change direction, not because you're lost, but because you've learned. This process of aligning your actions with your values and aspirations is what gives your life direction. Not just goals, but meaning. There's also a difference between having a purpose and living with purpose. Many people have a purpose on paper, a goal, a dream, a mission statement. But until those words translate into daily action, that purpose remains abstract. Purpose becomes real only when it shows up in your calendar, your behavior, your decisions, and your habits. It is not enough to believe in something meaningful. You must live in a way that reflects it. That's how integrity is formed. And that's how you earn the internal confidence that you're on the right path, even if it's a difficult one. We build purpose through intentional action, not just once in a while, but over time. Purpose is a byproduct of consistency, clarity, and contribution. It doesn't scream for attention. It grows quietly as you align your actions with what truly matters. Whether you're on the mountaintop or in the valley, every choice you make to live in alignment, to serve with humility, and to grow through discomfort is one more step in constructing a purposeful life. Without purpose, we operate in reaction mode. With purpose, we live in alignment with our values. This contrast is at the heart of how we experience life. And yet most people go through their days unaware of which side they're living on. Reaction mode is the default setting for many. It's when we wake up and immediately check our phones, respond to whatever notification buzzes first, and let the outside world dictate our thoughts, emotions, and actions. It's a life governed by urgency instead of importance. It's a cycle of responding to pressures, distractions, expectations, and problems as they appear without any deeper filter for what actually matters. Living in reaction mode can feel productive. It keeps you busy. You're constantly doing things, checking boxes, replying to emails, making calls, attending meetings. But business is not the same as effectiveness. And motion is not the same as progress. In reaction mode, you are constantly adjusting to the world around you, but you're not necessarily moving in a direction that aligns with your inner compass. Your day is owned by circumstances, not by conviction. You're being pulled, not led. And after enough time in this mode, a sense of burnout, disconnection, and even resentment begins to grow because deep down, you know you're not living true to yourself. Now contrast that with living in alignment with your values. This is what happens when purpose enters the picture. Purpose acts as an internal guide. It helps you distinguish what's urgent from what's essential. It clarifies which opportunities to pursue and which to release. It gives you the courage to say no to things that pull you away from your priorities, and yes to things that push you to grow. It gives you an identity rooted in intention, not circumstance. When you live in alignment with your values, you begin your day with clarity, not confusion. You know why you're doing what you're doing, even when it's hard. You can endure stress and setbacks because you have a reason beyond comfort or convenience. Living in alignment doesn't mean everything becomes easier. It means everything becomes more meaningful. Your actions are no longer random reactions to external events. They become deliberate expressions of who you are and what you stand for. You don't just do things because everyone else is doing them. You do things because they represent something important to you. Whether it's the way you speak to people, the time you devote to your family, the honesty you bring to your work, or the sacrifices you make for your goals, each choice becomes a reflection of something deeper. Reaction mode often leads to regret. It creates a life filled with moments where we say, I wish I had done that differently, or why did I say yes to that, or how did I end up here? But when we live with purpose, alignment becomes our filter. We act according to what we believe in, not just what's convenient. And that creates a very different outcome. It doesn't eliminate mistakes, but it gives them context. Even when we fail, we know it was in pursuit of something real. Even when we struggle, we know the struggle matters. In reaction mode, your self-worth is tied to external validation, how people respond to you, how many likes you get, how quickly you check off a task. You are constantly measuring yourself by standards that are always shifting. But in alignment, your worth is anchored internally. You measure success by whether you stay true to your values. You find fulfillment not from applause, but from authenticity. You don't need to chase every opportunity because you know which ones truly fit. You're no longer trying to please everyone. You're committed to pleasing the right people, starting with yourself. The difference is subtle but powerful. Two people can be doing the same job, but one is drained while the other is deeply satisfied. Why? Because one is reacting to pressure and the other is acting with purpose. One is performing to survive, the other is contributing to something bigger than themselves. When you live in alignment, you become consistent, not chaotic. You start recognizing patterns in your life that either support or sabotage your integrity. You start making changes not because someone told you to, but because they feel right to your core. Purpose also helps you navigate moments of doubt or failure. In reaction mode, failure feels like the end. It crushes you, defines you. But in alignment, failure becomes information. It's part of the path, not the end of it. You learn from it, you adapt, you keep going, not because you feel like it, but because the reason behind what you're doing is strong enough to carry you through. When we shift from reaction to alignment, everything changes. We stop chasing, we start becoming, we stop apologizing for who we are, we start living as who we were meant to be. And each day becomes an opportunity not just to respond to life, but to create a life that reflects our deepest truth. Purpose gives meaning to struggle and direction to failure. It doesn't remove hardship, but makes it worthwhile. This is one of the most important truths that people often overlook when they pursue a purposeful life. There's a common fantasy that once we find our purpose, everything will fall into place, that life will get easier, obstacles will vanish, and happiness will flow naturally. But the reality is quite the opposite. Purpose doesn't eliminate challenges, it reframes them. It doesn't make the path smooth, but it gives the bumps meaning. It allows you to keep going not because the journey is easy, but because the destination is worth it. Struggle is a natural part of growth. No one builds something valuable without facing resistance. Whether it's emotional, physical, financial, or psychological, resistance is inevitable. But when you have no purpose, that struggle feels like suffering. It feels random, cruel, pointless. You start to question everything. Why is this happening to me? Is it even worth it? Should I just give up? That's what it feels like to face hardship without a deeper reason to endure it. Without purpose, pain is just pain. It weighs you down and pushes you into survival mode. But when you have purpose, the pain becomes part of the process. You understand that difficulty is not a detour, it's a key part of the journey. You see the effort, the sweat, the setbacks, and even the failure as part of your personal refinement. The hardship becomes fuel. It no longer feels like something working against you. It feels like something working within you, building capacity, resilience, character, and vision. Purpose transforms pain into progress. It allows you to hold discomfort with dignity because you know what you're fighting for. Failure is another area where purpose changes everything. For most people, failure feels like defeat. It crushes confidence and halts momentum. People internalize failure as a reflection of their identity. I failed, therefore I'm not good enough. But purpose changes the lens through which failure is viewed. When you're living with purpose, failure becomes feedback. It becomes a teacher. You stop seeing it as an endpoint and start treating it as data, useful, honest, and necessary. You learn to ask better questions. What can I improve? Where did I go off track? How does this experience sharpen my focus on what matters most? With purpose, you stop fearing failure because you understand that the mission is bigger than the mistake. You're not driven by ego, you're driven by impact. You don't need to prove something to others. You need to stay true to something inside you. And that changes your entire approach to risk. You become more willing to try, to fall, to get back up, not because you're fearless, but because the fear doesn't outweigh the reason why you're doing it in the first place. Think about the people who have made the greatest impact in any field: business, science, art, education, activism. None of them succeeded without struggle or failure. But what separated them from others wasn't talent alone. It was purpose. They had something inside them that pushed them to keep going when the odds were against them. They endured the setbacks because their mission mattered more than their comfort. They were willing to be misunderstood, rejected, doubted, and exhausted because they knew what they were doing had value beyond the moment. Even on a personal level, purpose anchors you when life gets chaotic. Whether you're facing a breakup, job loss, health issue, or identity crisis, when you have purpose, you're not just reacting, you are recalibrating. You may cry, doubt, and feel lost, but you still move. Purpose doesn't prevent you from hurting. It just makes sure your hurt isn't wasted. It turns suffering into story. It turns pressure into preparation. It turns defeat into development. Without purpose, pain is just something to escape. With purpose, pain is something to embrace, not because you enjoy it, but because you know what it's shaping you into. Purpose reminds you that the value of the journey is not always in what you get, but in who you become. And the becoming happens most intensely when you are tested. When everything is falling apart and you choose to stay committed. when you want to quit, but you remember the reason you started. That's when purpose becomes your power. Not because it solves all your problems, but because it keeps you from giving up in the face of them. So no, purpose won't make life easier. It won't take away the long nights, the hard conversations, the rejections, or the sacrifices. But it will give every one of those things meaning. And when something has meaning, it's no longer just a burden. It becomes a building block. That's the quiet strength of purpose. It doesn't shield you from the storm. It gives you the reason to walk through it. True purpose is not loud like passion. It's quiet discipline lived out through consistency and integrity. This truth is often missed in today's world where we are constantly told to follow our passion, chase excitement, or do what lights you up. And while passion has its place, it's unreliable. It comes and goes like waves. One day you're filled with energy and inspiration. The next day you're tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. Passion is emotional and unpredictable. Purpose, on the other hand, is steady. It's not built on feeling. It's built on commitment. And that's why it lasts. There is a kind of glamour around the word passion. We imagine people jumping out of bed every morning with fire in their eyes, creating, building, achieving. But no one, no matter how inspired, feels like that every single day. What carries people through the days when the fire is low? What keeps them moving forward when no one is cheering, when results are slow, or when no one notices their effort? It's not passion, it's purpose. And the quiet discipline that comes with it. Purpose doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need the spotlight. It doesn't demand applause. It shows up in the small, often invisible decisions. It's the extra hour you spend preparing even when you're exhausted. It's choosing honesty when lying would be easier. It's sticking to your word when it costs you. It's returning to your routine when motivation disappears. These aren't dramatic moments. No one claps for them. But these are the acts that define who you are and what you stand for. This is the substance of real purpose. Not what you feel, but what you do consistently, even when it's hard. We live in a time that glorifies speed, visibility, and emotional highs. But true purpose asks for something else. It asks for patience. It asks for humility. It asks for the courage to stay committed to a path, even when it gets boring, hard, or lonely. It asks for integrity, the ability to stay aligned with your values, even when no one is watching. That's the kind of life that builds lasting impact. That's the kind of life that inspires real respect. And it doesn't always look glamorous. People often confuse excitement with meaning. But the most meaningful parts of life are rarely exciting in the moment. Raising children, building a business, mastering a craft, serving a cause. These things require years of unseen effort. There are no shortcuts. There are no constant highs, just repetition, just learning, just showing up again and again. The purpose behind those efforts may be quiet, but it's powerful. It becomes the foundation on which everything else is built. The discipline that purpose demands is not harsh or rigid. It's deeply rooted in love, commitment, and identity. It's not about forcing yourself to do what you hate. It's about choosing again and again to act in line with what you believe in, especially when it's inconvenient. It's about asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be? And then backing that up with action. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. That's why some of the most purposeful people are not the loudest in the room. They don't need to prove anything. They're not chasing attention. They are centered, grounded, and disciplined. They don't need to talk about their purpose constantly. They're too busy living it. You see it in their actions, in their choices, in the way they carry themselves when no one's paying attention. Purpose lives in silence more often than in sound. It's not dramatic. It's dependable. It's easy to start something when you're inspired, but it takes purpose to continue when inspiration fades. Passion will get you going. Purpose will keep you going. And what keeps you going becomes who you are. The difference between a life of noise and a life of meaning often comes down to discipline. The discipline to keep showing up. The discipline to say no when it's easier to say yes. The discipline to grow, to stay patient, to stay honest. And that discipline is not fueled by external rewards. It's fueled by a deep internal commitment to something bigger than yourself. People want impact. They want legacy. But impact isn't created through bursts of emotion. It's created through a life lived on purpose, slowly, faithfully, and quietly, not in front of crowds, but often in solitude, not in big gestures, but in daily actions. It's easy to perform for a moment. It's hard to live with integrity for a lifetime, but that's what purpose asks of you. And that's what ultimately shapes a life that matters. Waking up with purpose means choosing to shape your day, your character, and your legacy, not just to survive, but to contribute. Each new day offers more than a schedule to follow. It offers a chance to create something meaningful. Yet many people wake up simply to get through the day. They wake up to survive, to complete a list of tasks, to meet deadlines, to fulfill obligations. Their mornings begin with fatigue, not anticipation. And that's because they're approaching each day as something to endure, not something to shape. But waking up with purpose changes everything. It turns ordinary time into an extraordinary opportunity, a chance to mold who you're becoming, what you give, and the impact you leave behind. Living with purpose is not about having every minute planned or achieving perfection. It's about waking up with an inner decision to bring intention into how you live. You begin to see your day not just as a sequence of tasks, but as a reflection of your deeper values. You take ownership of your time, your mindset, your energy. Instead of being pushed through your schedule by momentum or pressure, you pull your day forward with clarity. You ask yourself, who do I want to be today? What kind of mark do I want to leave? It's not about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions. Waking up with purpose also means being aware that every action, even the small, routine ones, is shaping your character. The way you speak to someone in the morning, the effort you give to a project, the patience you show under pressure, the honesty you hold on to when no one else would know. All of these choices are like bricks laid in the foundation of your identity. You're not just moving through time, you're building yourself within it. Each day, your character is either being strengthened or compromised. Purpose keeps you conscious of that. It gives you a reason to be intentional in moments that others might overlook. When you're intentional about shaping your character, your contribution naturally follows. You start to understand that your life is not just about what you get, it's about what you give. You begin to see your job, your family, your community, and your conversations as places where you can add value. Not because someone told you to, because you recognize that fulfillment comes not from consumption, but from contribution. And contribution doesn't always mean something grand. It can be showing kindness in a stressful situation, mentoring someone who's struggling, or choosing to do your work with excellence even when no one is watching. These are the quiet acts of significance that build a legacy. Too often, people wait for the right time to live with purpose. They wait for the perfect job, the ideal conditions, or some major turning point. But purpose isn't something you wait for. It's something you bring. It's not something given to you by your circumstances. It's something you give to your circumstances. You don't need to have a grand vision or a huge platform to wake up with purpose. You just need the willingness to be deliberate with your time, your choices, and your energy. That's where your influence begins. Even on the days when everything feels heavy, waking up with purpose gives you a reason to carry that weight. It reminds you that your presence matters, that your choices are shaping not just your day, but your future. It keeps you aligned with what matters even when things feel uncertain. And slowly, day by day, you're not just going through life. You're creating a life of meaning, character, and impact. Every morning is a blank page. You can fill it with reactions, distractions, and routines. Or you can shape it with focus, contribution, and growth. Waking up with purpose doesn't guarantee that the day will be easy, but it guarantees that the day will count. It allows you to take full responsibility for the energy you bring, the standards you hold, and the footprint you leave behind. Over time, those choices become your character. That character becomes your contribution, and that contribution becomes your legacy. The truth is, purpose isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a way of living you choose every single day. It's not loud, not always exciting, and rarely easy. But it gives your life direction, meaning, and resilience. When you wake up with purpose, you stop reacting to life and start creating it. You begin to lead yourself with intention, shape your character with discipline, and contribute to something larger than yourself. Purpose won't remove your struggles, but it will transform them. It won't guarantee success, but it will give every effort meaning. And in a world full of distractions, noise, and pressure, the ability to live with quiet purpose may be the most powerful thing you ever do. So tomorrow, when the alarm rings, don't just rise to survive, rise to lead, to grow, and to live on purpose.